Hi, I'm Darnell with Way Over Recipes, and this is my review of the Gourmia French Door XL Digital Air Fry Oven. So let's go ahead and get it unboxed. Okay, so everything's unboxed. Now I'll show you the accessories. Got a wire rack here, pretty big wire rack. It's got a bake pan, pretty big bake pan. We'll do some measurements of some things later. It's got an air fry rack, pretty big air fry rack. And it's got a drip pan that goes into the bottom of the cooker. And they give you some documentation as well. There's like this manual here. There's kind of like a quick cooking chart to give you some ideas on how to cook things. And it comes with a recipe book that's a pretty nice looking recipe book. Got lots of pretty pictures of things. And let's see how many pages this goes for. This is a pretty big recipe book. It goes 63 pages total, the recipe book, and it's also got its own kind of cooking chart in the back of how you can basically cook some things. So pretty nice. They gave you a lot of recipes there. That's a pretty good deal. And so here's the power cord. It's a 2-prong polarized cord, not a very long cord, and it's 1700 watts. So this cooker comes in below like a max of about 1800 watts, and for a larger size cooker at 1700 watts, it'll be interesting to see how it performs. We'll do like some temperature testing and such later. And they mention that this cooker has what they call Fry Force 360 technology. That's an interesting marketing term there. The temperature ranges are between 90 degrees Fahrenheit and 450 degrees Fahrenheit. That depends on the function you're using. Time ranges are between 1 minute to 72 hours, 3 days. Also depends on the function that you're using. And it has an XL capacity, so they're saying that it can hold up to 12 slices of bread, a 15-inch pizza, up to a 20-pound turkey, that's 20-pound turkey, or a 15 by 13-inch pan. And they say it has 6 rack levels. I think that's the most that I've seen on a cooker to review here, 6 rack levels. And so let me show you around the cooker so that you can get a look around this big cooker. Let's see here. On the side, you see that it's got nothing on this side, no air vent or anything, just a big Gourmia on this side. On the other side, it's got lots of vent holes on the other side there. And we go around to the back. In the back, you see a nice big hump and some vent on the side. So big hump and vent on the side there in the back. So that's your look around. Alright, so now I'm giving you a closer up view of the cooker. You see the display on the side here. We'll get into that when we plug things in and show you all that good stuff. And going to open the door, I need to, sorry about this noise, I need to get some things out of the way to prevent them hitting the door. But going to open up now. You see I opened one door, both doors open. And it looks like they stay closed. I mean, they stay open. I'm tapping the door, and the door doesn't try and come closed. But when I close one door, they both close. So that's pretty nice that it stays open, as long as you have room to open them fully. I'm going to go ahead and slide the drip tray into the bottom. So that's on in there. Now let's take a look inside of the cooker. We see we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rack levels, just like they said. They've got the markings on the side. They show you 1 through 6. And down bottom, we have 1, 2 heating elements on the bottom. Over here on the right side inside, we've got an air fry fan right there. And let's see what else we can see. We can see that big hump in the back there. And when we look up top, we see 1, 2, just 2 heating elements up top is all that I see up top. I'm not seeing the ambient probe around when oh, there's the ambient probe. It's like hiding back here behind this heating element. So the ambient probe's back there behind that upper heating element. Interesting place to put that. It's kind of hiding back there. So that's your look around the inside of the cooker. Okay, so we have the Oster French door air fry oven, which is a extra large size oven next to the Gourmia French door extra large digital air fry oven. And I've got a full review of the Oster here on this channel if you want to check that out. There's lots of details about this cooker in that review. But I wanted to basically do some measurements of the cookers to compare them for size. And we just see, I guess generally speaking, that they're about the same height, just about. Maybe the Gourmia is maybe I don't know if that's even a centimeter taller, maybe not. I mean, it's real close. They're about, I guess right about here, they're about the same. So roughly the same in height. But I'm going to do some measurements and we're going to see how things look. So we see on the height, things are a little under 13 inches for both under 13 inches. I go across the top of the Oster, I'm looking at about 21¼ inches. And I do the same for the Gourmia. I'm looking at just about 21¼ inches. It's like they're about the same. When I do over the top here, I'm getting, and I'm going from the hump in the back up to the handle, so kind of trying to gauge that hump in the back. I'm looking at about 19¼ inches. When I do the same here for the Gourmia, I'm looking at about 19 inches even, 19 even. So the Oster just a tad longer front to back, just a tad. Now, let's see, did I go, yeah, I went this way, I did your height, and I did the front to back here, so I think I've done all of those. Now I'm going to open up the Oster and going to do an inside front to back using the hump. So using the hump front to back, I get to, let's see, about 17 inches here, inside front to back with that hump. Doing the hump here on the, let's see, I'll do it right here, front to back here. It's like just under 17 inches, just a little, I mean it's just like a smidge smaller inside here on the Gourmia, but both are roughly about 17, but the Gourmia is just a little smaller. Now I'm going to do inside, let's do inside side to side here. The Oster is looking like about 15¾ inches about. It's about 15¾ Gourmia is looking like about, let's see. Yeah, it's about 15¾ too. It's like they're about the same in a lot of respects. So let's see top to bottom on the inside here. I'm looking at, let me make sure I'm getting a good eye level. Yeah, I'm looking at about, I mean it's under 10, it's about 9¾ about 9¾ Let's see what the Gourmia has. It's got maybe just a tad over 9¾ I think it's just a little, just a smidge taller inside, just a smidge. So their measurements are very comparable. Although with the Gourmia you've got 6 rack levels, with the Oster you've got 1, 2, 3 rack levels. You don't put anything up higher than 3. So it's 3 rack levels on the Oster, whereas you got 6 on the Gourmia. Now I'm going to, let me just measure this bake pan here on the Gourmia just so that you see how big it is. It's about 15, almost 15½ inches, a little more than 15½ inches that way, and then the height here is about 13¾ about 13¾ there. Now I want to just show you the difference in bake pan size. this is the Oster's bake pan. It can fit inside the Gourmia's bake pan. It's a smaller pan. Now I'm going to show you the air fry rack of the two. This is of course, the Oster's rack, and this is the Gourmia's. The Oster's rack is smaller than the Gourmia rack. The Gourmia rack is bigger. So that's interesting. Now let's look at the wire rack for the Oster here, and the wire rack for the Gourmia. The wire racks are about the same. They're about the same. You just see if the Oster rack will go in the Gourmia, and it does. The Oster rack goes into the Gourmia. So they have that that they can share, I guess. And I'm going to try the Gourmia rack in the Oster just to see if it'll fit. And it does. So their wire racks are basically able to fit in one another, but the other accessories, the Gourmia is bigger. So that's some pretty interesting stuff. Right here. Now I'm going to try with just a 13-inch bake pan just so you see. This is a 13-inch bake pan with no handles. And you see that it goes into the Oster just fine, no problem. And it can go into the Gourmia just fine as well, no problem. So you see that. Now I want to show you a 13-inch bake pan with handles just to see how that fits. So here we have that, and going into the Oster just fine, no problem. 13-inch bake pan with handles, and into the Gourmia just fine, no problem there. Alright, so now I've got the Gourmia next to the Ninja Foodi XL Pro air fry oven, and I have to say that even though this is called the Ninja Foodi XL Pro, XL has been redefined by folks like Gourmia and Oster. They're building stuff bigger, so I don't know if Ninja's going to come out with a double XL or what, but we'll see. But basically the Ninja is smaller as far as front to back and sides. I mean, it's just obviously smaller. But I wanted to just check the top to bottom size here in the Ninja between the Oster. And it's got about 10.5 inches top to bottom. And the Gourmia again was just about 10 inches. So the Ninja has just a little bit top to bottom, a little more height, but in every other regard, it's smaller. Now, I do want to show you the 13-inch bake pan again in the Ninja Foodi XL Pro. It goes in, no problem. But the 13-inch bake pan with handles will not fit into the Ninja Foodi XL Pro air fry oven. So that's a limitation there that you don't have with the Gourmia. Alright, so now I'm going to do a 5-pound chicken fit test, which should go easy for this cooker. This is a 5-pound frozen chicken. Won't be cooking it in this review because it's frozen, but you see that it fits inside of there, no problem. Easy to put a 5-pound chicken in there. And I don't have a 20-pound turkey to do a 20-pound turkey fit test, but they say one will fit. Okay, so I've turned the light off so that you can see the display well for an initial plug-in. So let's plug things on in here and see what happens. So there's our initial plug-in. You just get a beep, no other fanfare. And this is the power button down here. So turn it on. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to do an initial toast time check. Some cookers are able to adjust time based on how hot the cooker is, the toast time, if they recognize the cooker's hot. So I'm just going to check that real quick. So I hit the toast button and it's on level 3 for toasting. We'll just go ahead and let's see. I'm going to up that. I think if you do up the temp. Yeah, so let's do 4 and then we'll go ahead and try and start that. So start button is down here. So it's 4 minutes 30 seconds. I'm going to stop that and you hit cancel twice, and it first time it kind of did a pause, second time it did an end of the cook. So that's something to keep in mind there when you're using the cooker. And afterwards you hear that fan running, kind of does that cool down afterwards. So that's good to know. So now I'm going to do a temperature test, but before that I'm just going to hit toast again, and we see that it does not remember that I was using toast level 4 earlier, so the cooker has no apparent memory of any cooks that we do. You have to basically go back in and start from their default for whatever you want to do. So canceling that. But I've got the iGrill 2 temperature probe. I'm using rack level 4, and you can see the temperature here is showing 76 degrees currently. And we're going to hit air fry, and I'm going to up the temperature up to the max. I'm going to up the time to 30 minutes. So we'll go ahead and do our test with that. I'm going to hit start, and it's doing a preheat. We'll let things go ahead and preheat, and we'll see how hot things look here compared to inside with their ambient probe, and see if there's any discrepancy between the ambient probe I'm using versus the one that they have up there in the back corner. Alright, it's saying add food. Things are at 511 on my ambient probe. They're 450 according to it, I guess. Basically, you open the door, close it, it doesn't do anything. You have to hit start. So, let me see, hitting start. No? Let's try again. Oh, okay. Now it lit up. I guess after I opened the doors all the way and closed them all the way. That's pretty interesting. It didn't initially notice even when I tried to hit the start button. And I guess, or maybe it just does it after a few seconds. I'm thinking opening and closing the door because there was a delay. And when I pressed the button, it didn't really seem to respond to the button. I think that it just waits a minute and then it just starts, is what I'm thinking. That's what I'm suspecting. But we're going to let things run for a while and see what happens. Okay, it's been in the cooking mode for 10 minutes now. The ambient probe has kind of been fluctuating. It's always been a little over 450 though. It came down from that 500, and so now it's at 469. I've seen it up at like 477, but kind of hangs around there. I'm going to feel around the cooker, see how hot things are. The top is hot. Yeah, the top's hot. Side's hot. This side is not as bad. It's got some hot spots, but it's not as bad. But it's still hot. Front is hot. Don't want to touch it. Back is hot. It's hot all around. Whole thing's hot. Feeling down here. My hand doesn't feel hot. Hanging out right here. Put my hand over on the side here. It doesn't feel hot. Just hanging out right there. So hot all around, but at least underneath it's not feeling very hot. Now I'm going to do a change on the fly check just to change the time. We can change time on the fly. Temp we can change as well on the fly. No problems there. Let's see if we open the doors. No pause when we open the door, but if we hit cancel once, we get our pause as I showed earlier. So that's how you get your pause. So sorry about that loud beep there. Now I'm going to check while things are really hot just to see if the toast time adjusts at all. So hit toast, go up to 4, hit start. It's still doing 4 minutes 30 seconds, so it does not adjust. Sorry for that. I don't have a way to stop that beeping, or know of a way to stop that loud beeping. But basically we see that it doesn't adjust for the temperature when you're doing toast. It's just going to do the same time regardless. So I've got the light on now, and it looks like things don't wash out too much on the display with the light on, so I'll just go ahead and keep the light on for easier viewing of things. But I did confirm off camera, I did a burn off. You're supposed to, with any of these cookers, use them for highest setting for maybe about 20 minutes with all the accessories in to burn off any shipping oils or anything of that sort. And I've got a whole video about that as far as how to get the smell off of these cookers. You're supposed to do that before you do any cooks. But I confirmed off camera that the add food that lights up, that shows for like maybe about 30 seconds or so, and then it just goes right into cooking. So after the preheat, it says add food, and you got a little time to get your food in there, and then it just starts counting down cooking. I wanted to show, if you want to toggle between Fahrenheit and Celsius, you're supposed to be able to hit the keep warm button, well, hold the keep warm button, and it's supposed to switch. So I think this is keep warm, and let me, I guess, press it once. Now I'm going to hold keep warm. Let's see what happens. There it goes. So it switched to Celsius. I guess 200 is 90 Celsius. So if I hold keep warm again, now it's switched back to Fahrenheit. So that's how you switch between Fahrenheit and Celsius as far as your temperature settings. And there are a lot of functions on this cooker, a lot of options here on the buttons. But a lot of these are the same, and it's just a different starting default. But a lot of them are kind of the same function, I guess internally, just a different default time and temperature comes up on the display for most of them. But for air fry, I'm going to talk about air fry. Air fry has preheat, goes from 170 degrees Fahrenheit to 450, 1 minute to 60 minutes cooking time, and you use the basket in position 3 or 4. And it has that air fry fan. French fry or fries, it's got the same limits and the same level as air fry. The wing setting, for wings, it's also the same, but you use the pan and you use rack level 4 for wings. For the bacon setting, for bacon it's the same as wings, but you use rack level 3 or 4. For vegetables, and I think I'm going to stop clicking the button because I don't want to have a beep every single time, but I'll just talk through each function and its limits and such. But vegetables is the same as bacon basically. The next one is snacks, also in the air fry category. It's the same as air fry, and you use the basket, you use rack level 3 or 4. Seafood is the same, but you use the pan with seafood. Now with the toast setting down here, toast has no preheat. It uses shades 1 through 7, and you use the wire rack on position 3 or 4, has no fan. Bake, the bake button there, has a preheat, no fan. Temperature ranges are 170 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Time ranges between 1 to 99 minutes. You use the pan and rack levels 3 or 4. Roast is much like bake, and the only difference really is that roast has a fan, so you get a fan with roasting. Bagel is much like toast, except for you use rack level 1 or 2. Convection bake is, it's like air fry, but you use a pan. So basically, convection bake, a lot like air fry. There's your convection bake button. You just use a pan. Broil is fixed at 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And has 1 to 60 minutes. You use a pan or rack level 1 or 2 up top there, and there's your broil button. Pizza, it has a preheat, and it goes from 170 degrees Fahrenheit to 450 degrees Fahrenheit for between 1 to 60 minutes. Wire rack position 4 or 5, and you put the bake pan underneath that. Now the next one is a reheat. So we got a reheat button there, and it's like convection bake, but it has no reheat. It has no preheat. Reheat has no preheat, but it's a lot like convection bake. Keep warm, which I showed you for changing the temperature setting. It has no preheat, and it's between 90 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 1 minute to 99 minutes. Use a pan on rack level 3 or 4, and it has no fan on keep warm. Dehydrate there, on the bottom row. It has no preheat, between 90 degrees Fahrenheit to 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Goes from 30 minutes to 72 hours. Use a basket on rack level 3 or 4. Slow cook, it has no preheat, and it has a low and a high setting. So that one I will click. Sorry for the beep in advance. Well, actually I need to turn it back on. And so it's got a low setting, or you can go up to high. It's low or high is basically the options for slow cook. The low setting is 190 degrees Fahrenheit. High setting is 250 degrees Fahrenheit on slow cook. And the cooking times are between 15 minutes and 12 hours. Use the wire rack on rack level 6. That's the bottom rack level. And it has a fan on slow cook. The last setting, interesting, is popcorn. And popcorn has a preheat, cooks between 300 to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. And I will say that popcorn usually start popping, you got to get things up to about 450-ish to get things to start popping. But you basically, it uses the fan, and you use rack level 6 with the pan, and you put the air fry basket upside down on top of the pan to stop your popcorn from getting away from you. And so those are all of the functions. So now I'm going to do a toast test. I've got a couple slices of my homemade almond flour whole wheat bread. There's a recipe video here on the channel if you don't know how to make it. But I've got one slice with butter and a second slice without any butter on it. I'm going to set those up on rack level number 4 and close things up. I'm going to hit the toast. Well, let me see, I got to turn things on and then hit toast. I'm going to go up to level 5 and just see what happens. I'm going to hit start. So that's 5 minutes 15 seconds. We'll let that cook. Almond flour whole wheat bread does take a bit longer, this homemade bread, longer than your store-bought bread. So we'll see what happens. Alright, we're coming to the end of the toast. I'm going to hit the cancel to try and stop that beep. But this was room temperature bread when I put it in, just so you're aware. And getting this slice off here, see, just got a little browning, just a little browning. While on the back, we got a bit more browning. So brown's a bit more on the bottom than top. The slice with the butter on it, got some nice melting of the butter. Backside, you got that there. So it's able to do the toasting, but it seems like compared to some other toasters, you might want to use some of the higher settings to get a good toasting on your bread, but it also depends on the type of bread that you're using. So pretty okay toast test there. So now for the bake test, I'm going to make what I call apple cinnamon almond flour squares. I'm just showing you the apple, size apple that I'm going to be using in it. And I got this new food chopper here and have a link to it in my Amazon shop. Nothing this video is sponsored, but my Oster food chopper died, so I got this one, and it seems like it's going to work out pretty nice, so we'll use it here. And so I'm going to go ahead and get the apple sliced up and get it into the food chopper. So I've got the apple sliced up in there, and I'm going to go ahead and chop things up. See if it can make quick work of slicing the apple up for me. It's got a 1 and a 2. 1 is slow, 2 is fast, but I'm going to try the slow. That's it. Things chopped up. That's pretty good. So I'll use that. See, things are chopped up pretty well in there. So it did good work. Alright, so I'm going to put the ingredients for this recipe on the screen real quick, but I'm finishing up getting the dry ingredients mixed together. Then I'm going to throw the wet ones in and throw them into a 9-inch round bake pan that I have oiled up, and then I'm going to stick them in here. And so while I'm doing that, I'm just going to start preheating things. So I've got to use bake, and I'm going to use 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And for cooking time, I'm going to set it out to 30, well, it's already on 30 minutes, so that's good. We'll hit start with that, let it preheat. Alright, time to add the food. So, got a rack on level 4, and just going to go ahead and let that cook up. Okay, so I've let things go for about 20 minutes. Depending on the cooker, sometimes it takes between 25 to 30, but 20 minutes is kind of quick, and we did have a preheat, so that probably helped. But let's take a look. Whoa, almost let it go too far. Alright, feeling it, it's still too moist in there. I think that the top's getting browned over. I'm going to try and bring it down to a lower rack level is what I need to do. So I'm just going to bring it down to 5. Leave it there on 5. And try and let it keep going because I can tell inside it needs some more cooking. And I guess it's gone back to add food again because I guess it needed to go back to that because I had things open too long on my pause. But we'll see if it just keeps going again from the 10-minute mark. Once it gets past this little wait, it does this for like maybe, yeah, so there we go. So we got our last 10 minutes at 350 and it needs to keep going, but it seems like the top got a little too brown in my opinion for how things are so far, but it definitely needs the next 10 minutes. And we'll see how that does on the lower rack level. This is a little lower than they recommend for baking, but I think it's going to need it. And so we'll let it run for the next 10 minutes and Lord willing, won't get a burnt top. Alright, so I let things go for the full 30 minutes to finish out the cook. And it looks like the top got a little browner, I would say. For some of these bakes, maybe you need rack level 5 instead of rack level 4, depending on what you're baking. But let's go ahead and hit cancel there. It looks like the top got a good browning, but I'm going to try and just feel. Yeah, I think things are a bit more firmer inside now when I just tap it. Doesn't feel as fluidy. So I'm going to take this and let it set on the side to cool down. So the apple cinnamon almond flour squares have cooled down a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and slice in to do a taste of one here. Let's see, good piece here. See if I can get in under it. There we go. So there you see the baked inside, and I thank God for this and take a bite. Turned out very good. Turned out very good. You can see. It turned out very good. Tastes good. I'm going to do a popcorn test, and there's something interesting. Earlier I mentioned that popcorn uses rack level 6, and that's what they have here on this page of the manual. However, when you get into the details of popcorn, I forgot when I read that it says here to use the 4th rack position, and I suspect this is probably correct here in the details, and what they have here on this page where they say page 6 is probably inaccurate. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take, I've got a half a cup of popcorn kernels here, and I'm going to put those into the bake pan, and I'm going to go ahead and start preheating. So hit popcorn, we'll actually turn the cooker on, popcorn. It defaults to 405 minutes. Is that going to work? I don't know. Like I said, I think you usually need something a little hotter, but that's what their preset has. So I'm going to try it. Maybe it'll need more, maybe not, I don't know. But I'm hitting start, let it preheat, and once it's done preheating, I'll take these kernels that I'm putting on the bake pan in an even layer, and we'll just get them put in there with the air fry basket on top like that to prevent anything popping out. Alright, time to add. And so open up, rack level 4 here, very carefully. Try not to make a mess. Do I have both sides on 4? No, I don't. Okay, there we go, close up. And so it'll start cooking. Let's see what happens. Alright, it looks like 400 is working. I mean, we're about 3.5 minutes in and we've got a few that have popped. Good number that have popped, so we'll just let this keep going. Alright, so time is up. I'm going to hit cancel. They mentioned that after it's done, you're supposed to let things set for 2 minutes to allow them to finish popping, because there's still some in there popping. So just going to let things continue for another couple minutes. Alright, so let things go for a couple minutes. It seems like the popping is kind of easing up, so I think they're probably done. And so it looks like Gourmia has shown us a way to make popcorn in the air fryer oven. I'm going to set this aside, let things basically cool down because it's all still pretty hot. But there you go. Okay, the pan with the popcorn is still kind of hot, but I did get a few kernels off to just taste, so just going to taste these. Yeah, that's popcorn right there. Turned out okay, not burnt. And I didn't put any butter or anything on it. I just basically followed their instructions to just see what would happen that way. But if you want to add butter or whatever like that, that's up to you. But it can make popcorn. I think you all might remember, if you've been watching this channel a long time, some years ago, one of my kids was working with me trying to do it in an air fryer that didn't work out. But we see here in the Gourmia how we're able to do it. Right, so I'm going to cook up some frozen chicken tenderloins here. I'm going to put some extra light olive oil on them, as well as some Old Bay seasoning. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to start preheating. I've got the air fry basket on rack 4. I've got the bake pan underneath to catch drippings on rack level 5. I'm using 4 because the air fry fan kind of sets between levels 4 and 5. If you put it up on like level 3 and have the bake pan underneath, you're kind of going to be blocking the fan flow. So I'm using 4 and 5. I'm going to turn the cooker on and hit air fry. I'm going to bring the temp down to 400. I'm going to leave the cook time running at 20 minutes and going to hit start preheating, and I'll get things in there once the preheat's done. Alright, going to add the food in. Let's see here. Getting a little bit of smoke from that oil, but extra light olive oil has a high smoke point, so it shouldn't be too much trouble. Alright, looks like things have started cooking. I'm going to close one up. At the top of that door, it's kind of hot. We'll let it go ahead and cook. So things have been cooking for a little over 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and try and flip things over. So hitting cancel to pause. I'm going to go in and try and flip things over real quick. Kind of tricky getting some of these flipped. Let's see if we can. One more. Alright, so close on up. Let me move these back a little bit. Close on up and finish. Hit start there. And it'll go back to cooking again as we saw earlier. Alright, so things have gone for the full 20 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and use my Thermapen to check temperature of a piece or two if I can. See if it cooked right through that. See, that's 159. See this one here. Yeah, we're coming up a little short, but with these thin pieces, it's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard with these thin pieces, but man, like pieces here I know are already well done. I'm going to give it like 5 more minutes. So let's turn it back on and bring it down to 400. Sorry for the beeping. But just give it 5, which will be more than enough. And we'll just go ahead and let it, sorry for that, but we'll let it go ahead and cook for 5 minutes. Alright, so let it go 5 minutes longer for insurance. I'm going to go ahead and trust that things are warm enough now. And I do know about carryover. For all who want to mention carryover, you can check this channel. Nearly 800 cooking videos. I know all about it. I'm just not a fan of it. so I'm going to go ahead and get the meat off now and get it onto this plate. Try and get this little piece here. If it'll come off. There we go. Alright, I'm going to give these about 5 minutes to rest. Okay, so gave things a little time to rest. Going to go ahead and cut into this chicken and do a taste. Thank God for some chicken. Tastes very good. Has some moisture still in there. So it's good. Turned out good. The edges have a little crisp to them, and the inside of the meat is moist. So turned out well. Good job on the air fry there, and able to pause to do my flip. So that's pretty good. And with that big basket, able to air fry a whole lot if you want to, air fry a whole bunch. Now I'm going to talk about cleaning the cooker. Basically, when cleaning, you unplug the cooker, use like a warm soapy rag, nothing abrasive, and wipe down the interior, and then use a wet cloth to basically remove the excess soap. The air fry basket, oven rack, and the baking pan are top rack dishwasher safe, but they're pretty huge. So, if you're going to put those on the top rack of your dishwasher, they're going to take up all the space in your dishwasher. So let's talk about the warranty. The cooker comes with a 1-year warranty. And I hope that you did like this review of the cooker. Seems like it's able to do everything that it was tasked to do. And so nothing in this video, as I mentioned earlier, is sponsored. There's lots of ways to help the channel in the video description, such as my cookbook, merch, membership, donations. Also, you can always check out my blog, superwaveovenrecipes.com. With all of that said, if you did like the video, please give it a thumbs up, share the video with a friend, leave your comments, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification icon, and good eating.